Hi everyone, Catherine here from Minky Finger Cat, back with another Festive Friday. And this is lots of stencils. And I had a good old play. But I also had to do a lot of cleaning. So this is not for the faint of heart. Is that the right word? If you don't enjoy going to the sink and cleaning stencils, don't do this. But anyway. I chose the poinsettia background stencil from Waffle Flower that came out this year and went with these pieces of purple cardstock and some rich raspberry, I think is the colour of the ink. It went quite heavy on the first one. It's only a 2-layer stencil. It's so pretty though. And this one, I went in and decided to use the iridescent texture paste, which as you can see is looking a bit gloopy and not great in the pot. I think it's coming towards the end of its shelf life now, but I have had it for a good few years. So, yeah, I went on, did that, and then immediately went and cleaned off the both the grip mat and the stencil in the sink with a cloth. So yep, we get cleaning time. So you'll be glad to hear I have cut out all the cleaning time, but you'll see that cleaning time happens quite frequently on this. I went and did a second one, and this time I didn't add any more ink. I just used the ink that was already on the stencil and the brush, so it's a little bit lighter. And this time I decided to tint the paste. So I have tinted it previously, and I think I've usually used paint to tint it, but that sort of reduces the iridescence. So this time I used a shimmer ink, which is a liquid ink that's full of shimmery mica, and use that instead. And it's sort of gone a pale pink kind of colour. It looks rose gold in the end. That's how it looks. But of course, using the texture paste means I have to go and do some cleaning. Now, I don't like not using up the ink that was on that particular stencil, so what I did was I took it and just rubbed it through onto the white cardstock. I don't end up using this panel at all. I do the same with the remainder of the ink that's on the brush and for the second stencil, and then went and cleaned my stencils again. And cleaned up all the mess off the table, etc. I had got a little bit of that texture paste left over though, so that's off to the side. I'll come back to that in a bit. But yeah, I don't end up using that panel that I did then at any point in the card, so I've got that to use for another card at some point. So I've now gone and grabbed another of the new Waffle Flower. Oh, I'm saying new, I bought them a few months ago, so they're not new really. But this year's release of Waffle Flower stencils, which is the overlapping Christmas words, and I make a right old mess of it. And then because I've got really inky fingers, I make a mess of the next side of cardstock too. I end up using some tape just to tape it in place, because I think because I've cut my piece of cardstock quite wide, it wasn't gripping at the side, which is why it was shifting. Anyway, it works fine this time. And I've also been careful to keep my fingers away from the white of the cardstock, so you know I'm not transferring mucky fingers onto the inks, onto the cardstock. Now I used the same rich raspberry, then I went in with sweet sugar plum, which is like a pinky colour, and then I went to go and find, and I ended up with perfect plum as the third colour. I hadn't got another purple brush though, hence I did do a bit of a wipe off, because it is quite a pinky purple, the rich raspberry. This is a slightly more purple toned. To be honest, I probably would have been better going for another purple, because it's still not a brilliant match to the cardstock. It's fine, it works fine for the cards, but yeah, I think I probably would have been better going in with more bluey tones than the pinky tones. Purple's a funny one, isn't it? It can either be a blue or a pink. Anyway, I decided not to waste that cardstock that I had done a bad job on, and I just glued it all together, so it was 2 sheets deep, which isn't perfect for when you are die cutting, and you'll see I do fiddle a little bit to get it out of the dies. They're all right in some places, but as I've discussed in previous videos, my die cutting machine is on its way out, and I've just still not been able to, because it's not totally broken, I can work with it still. I can't justify buying another one just yet. I've got my eye on the Spellbinders Platinum 6 because at some point in my life I would like a foiling machine, so I'd like the glimmer, and I'm also tempted by the Better Press, but again, that's all money. Yeah, trying not to. So I've arranged these into 3 different clumps because I'm thinking of how I might use them, and again I need to go and do some tidying and cleaning. So I do, however, remember I've got this texture paste that's left over, so I went and just grabbed my Dilutions journal that I've had for donkey's years, and I've sort of fallen out of love with doing journaling, but I quite often end up wiping off into that kind of stuff. And then I go and do a full-scale clean-up of the desk. But what's really good about that is by doing the cleaning, it meant that that texture paste on the backgrounds has now not totally dried, but dried enough for me to continue. So I decide that I'm going to use Peace, Love and Joy on one card, Merry Christmas on the other. I've just gone and had a little hunt through the ribbon stash, and I found this sparkly lilac ribbon that works fine. But I've realised the stenciling doesn't go all the way to the end of the cardstock, and I completely forgot. I've already put the glue on it, so I did what I would not advise you doing, and that is using your guillotine without the finger guard. But I was really careful and very mindful of what I was doing, not to put my finger near the edge, so I didn't chop it off. But I also didn't want glue getting stuck underneath that, so that was the reason I did that. So now it's just a case of adhering. So I did use glue on that ribbon because it was quite a stiff ribbon and I knew it would be able to cope with the glue. I will tape the ends over the edge on the back when I go to do that in a minute, but for the glue on the ribbon was all it needed. And then I am gluing all of these pieces down, including the little stars, and then just popping that large acrylic block on the top just to weight it down, just to hold it in place whilst the glue dries. This glue dries quite quickly, so it's never really an issue, but I always feel, especially on a textured surface, it's important to just give it some time, a little bit of pressure, which is what that acrylic block does. So you see there I'm using the tape to just tape that ribbon into place, and then I'm going around the outsides with the tape in order to adhere them down to my card fronts. Now the card fronts would have worked fine as a normal A6 card, but I wanted to make them just that little bit better, a bit more special with the boundary, with the sort of like frame around the boundary of the card, and so I used 5x7 card blanks. But I did apply a little bit of wet glue on top of the tape just to give myself a little bit of wiggle room as I was sticking them down. So these are really pretty, textural, shiny cards. I hope you can see them in the photos better than you probably could on the video, especially that kind of rose gold. It's really, really pretty. Love those stencils. Obviously the ink stenciling has sort of like faded a little bit into the background because of the fact that it's over a dark cardstock. You could use a pigment ink and that would make it lighter, but I just wanted that something a little bit different on those dark purple panels. Hope you enjoyed this. Please do give me a thumbs up if you did, comment below, and I hope you're having a good day. Until next time, bye bye.